little piece because up until I started working with you, I was so protective of everything that I did. And looking back into this, I was so protective of everything I did. I wouldn't talk about what I did or the processes or how I did something because one, I was afraid someone would steal it, which
Yeah.
was just my own self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Of like,
Right.
someone's going to take what I'm doing and they're going to do exactly what I did and they're going to steal my clients. And when we first started working together, I think that was a huge part to me is that it was said to me by an individual that I can think of, I won't name, but he's like, you can give away all the information in the world. If the other person doesn't know how to use it, it's worth nothing. And that had such a massive impact. And maybe it was just the time in my life where I was like, everything was just so close to me. Like, I'm not telling anybody what I'm doing because, they're going to steal it or copy it or something like that. And it's shifted so much to where I can openly talk about what I do. I can get a lot of different feedback and we can create what we did, which to me has just been so cool. But I lived for 10 plus years in this industry, right? 10 more than 10, 12 before you and I started working together, really, just in a hole. That sucked.
Yeah.
Honest, being real, guys. I figured we'd start this off with like an emotional, like, what did Chad do wrong in his sales career? And to me, that's one of them. Is that I stayed in this little hole. I didn't talk to anybody. I was afraid that everyone was going to steal what I was going to do. So yeah, David loves giving secrets away. I love learning and getting better. So we both win in this, right?
Hell yeah. And this all rolls back into, guys, what we talk about all the time. Anybody that does want to copy anything we're doing, they're going to be so far behind. Doesn't matter because we're working with you guys on this stuff every single week. We're meeting with you guys. We're talking to you guys about this stuff. We're learning more about what's going on because the world of sales is always evolving. Buyers are always evolving. What worked yesterday doesn't work tomorrow. So we're always going to be on to the next evolution of this whole thing. Like I told you guys before, this red book was then evolved to this blue book, which was then evolved to the 8-figure commercial roadmap, the Territory Titan philosophy. So we're going to keep pushing this stuff. We're going to keep evolving this stuff because we want to stay on the cutting edge of what works. And we're always at the ground level in everything that we do. That's how Chad and I have built this thing, and that's where we want to stay. We're never going to lose touch with what you guys are going through and what you guys need to succeed. So let's get into it.
Story. Let's do this. Yeah. All right. So this week we're going to be going through what we're calling the secret seven-figure sales code. So in order for you guys to be able to get the most out of your day, week, month, year, I mean, I don't care where it is, you guys have to have a few different things inside line. And that's what we're going to be going through today. Jumping into this, if you guys have been here before and you're a part of the series, we're on session number 6 at this point right now. So this is a series that we are doing. And we've went through some of the information. We're going to recap it pretty quick here. But my name is Chad Westbrook. I am the founder and owner of Service Alignment, which is really focused on being able to help raise the floor of the commercial roofing industry. I'm here to be able to help the contractors that want to get better, that are focused on doing something better, giving a better experience, and ultimately increasing their business, right? For the greater good of the customers. That's what I'm here. You can read the numbers on here. I've been a part of well over a $500 million inside sales. I've led some of the largest preventative maintenance initiatives across the entire United States. I've been here, I've done this, and what I'm rolling out to you guys is not only what I've implemented into my teams, but we're continuing to be able to develop now that I get the opportunity to be able to work on a leadership side and get to develop and further develop a lot of the things that have driven into my success. So happy to be here and thankful you guys took 60 minutes out of your day to be able to spend some time.
Guys, David Bonney. I am
Man,
I'm a leader that's gone through the probably as far of a scale journey as you can possibly go through. One company that I started with early on was at 5 million when I started, and they were up into nine figures, valued at just under $1 billion by the time I left. And the stuff that scales organizations for extreme growth is really the stuff. Those are the secrets that I learned by being involved with companies that were backed by some of the largest venture capital firms in the world. And those are the secrets that we're bringing to you guys in our programs, in our trainings, and everything. And they're specifically tailored for the commercial roofing industry. And it doesn't matter what I've done over the last 18 years of my sales leadership journey. Um, the only thing that I do know is this stuff works. And when Chad and I hooked up, what was it, 6 or 7 years ago now, Chad? That it was during that period of time where I started to share those secrets. And for the first time in commercial roofing, I was actually talking to somebody that was already not only understood what I was saying, but was also doing a lot of the same things in the same way. He didn't realize it, he didn't know it because he was just doing what he knew worked. And it was so intuitive to him. So that's where our alignment came in all of this. And our journey is extremely uh, um, different from where it started, but very similar in terms of our approach. And we're here to give you guys everything that we've got every single week to make sure that you guys are set up for success.
And then David made my life a living hell for 2 years, asking me, why do you do that? And I had no idea why I did it, guys. That's the real truth. I knew that I did it and I knew that it worked. And I was like, well, if it works, I'm just going to keep doing it. And it kept working.
Yep.
But again, coolest part of what you guys are getting is all of this brain power, all of these trials and wins and fails and everything else that's putting together. But I'll tell you the one thing that has never changed is that we lose more jobs than we win. Right? Think about that. Everybody think about that. The number of jobs that you quote, right? When you give a proposal to someone, you lose more jobs than you win. There is so much that we can learn from losing a project that allows us to be able to change the future, right? And there's a fun way that we play this. There's a fun way that we play the game, right? It's the sales reaper because there are fatalities. There are reasons that your deals are dying. And we're going to go through those inside a second. But when we talk about the sales reaper, this is every mistake that you guys make inside the sales process, every question that you forget to ask, or you're turned nervous or scared to be able to ask. The sales reaper is behind it. They are waiting for you to be able to miss a step, skip, forget a question, or really not dive deep enough into a situation so they can kill the deal, so they can make sure that you don't get it. And that's what we're here to do today, is to fight against that, right? This is Roof Wars. This is us fighting against all of the negative, bad things that our customers have heard about every single other roofing contractor or every roofer inside general. And we're going to fight for the greater good. There's so much that we can learn from this. But as I said, when I kind of introduced myself, I've done this in multiple different areas. This is not theory. I've done it for a single company that was doing about $15 million in revenue. I've done it for a regional company that got to about 75 million. And one of the largest companies is about 140 million right now, that I was a part of growing their national account team and being accountable for a lot of the divisions that they opened up. So this isn't just we got an existing business and I had a good sales run. This is from 0 to 1, guys, or 0 to 1 million, if not more, right? Some of these divisions are doing, 3, 4, 5 million inside service alone, not counting the re-roofs. So to be able to highlight specifically one of those was the local one. And this was probably one of the most fun ones that I was a part of, because when I showed up, they had 3 trucks. Okay. 3 trucks. They were doing about 750,000 a year, so like 200,000 on average. They're a little higher than that. Had a big focus on capital. They had some good things going for them. Okay. They were a MBE, minority business. They were a hub, historically underutilized business. So they had these certifications. I was put inside place to be able to help grow the service division, extreme focus on service. And throughout 18 months, we were able to add one more truck. Might think like, that's cool, right? One more truck over almost 2 years. We picked the average truck up from 200,000 a year to almost 3 million in revenue. And we did that through efficiency, right? We call this the money-making machine. We did this through efficiency. We increased the revenue. We increased our efficiency, which didn't make us hire more people. We got better on using our time. That was the coolest part about this. We had over 350 annual rooftop maintenance agreements that were in place and active. And that number, I believe, has, if not doubled at this point right now, using the same process. That's what we're going to learn about today. This is one of the secrets that we're going to show you guys is how do you get to the point to where you can bring in 300 and then put 600 and then put in 900 service agreements and not have to triple the manpower or have to work, literally 20 hours a day. You don't have to do it. There's a better, more efficient way to be able to get through that. The one thing I'll tell you guys every single week that we go through is the David and Goliath theory. If you guys haven't read the book or know the story, do it, figure it out. That's what you guys need to invest your time into, because it doesn't matter how big your company is or how small your company is. You guys have the ability to be able to give a very unique, customized, perfected experience to every single customer. And I'll tell you, the bigger the company, the harder it is to turn that ship. The harder it is to be able to give a better experience. The harder it is to be able to implement anything, because it has to go through 37,000 steps to A, get approved, or even B, get the habit to be able to do it consistently when you have 10, 15, 20 trucks. You don't turn a ship like that in days. You turn a ship like that in years. So if you're sitting here and you guys are in the I'll say 15, $20 million inside revenue, you guys are in the best possible boat that you can be, because you can turn that boat, you can change that experience, and you can take what you learn right here and you can apply it as soon as you leave. That's one of the coolest things about being David, about being smarter, not having to work harder, but working smarter and being able to use technology and everything else to our benefit. David already mentioned it. We have the 8-figure service division, which is ultimately a step, or steps plural, that every single company takes when on that path to being that territory titan that's doing over $10 million per year in their division. Now, again, I'm talking service. Re-roofs are going to come from service. The roof is going to break and roof is going to leak, or whatever we want to call it, 100+ times before they even take the choice to be able to do the re-roof. Okay? I have had multiple sales reps that I would call 7-figure sales reps. And they came from all different parts of the United States. They came from all different parts and backgrounds. I don't care if it was radio station ads. I don't care if it was labor assistants. I don't care if it was a waiter inside Olive Garden. I've brought those individuals on board and I've turned them into what is called a 7-figure sales rep, right? 7-figure service sales rep. And that are individuals that do over $1 million every single year. Figure that out, right? How many tens of thousands are they selling every single week, every single month consistently? And they still have time to be with their family. They still have time to be able to grow and scale their business and take it well beyond that 7-figure side. There's a path to be able to get there. And we go through that path. We'll define that. We'll break it down. But jumping inside here, guys, it's possible. And we're showing you that path of how to be able to get to that 7-figure service rep. David, you want to take us through the 5 fatalities, sir?
Yep. So guys, like we said before, all of this is about how do we prevent deals from dying. We cannot tell you guys this enough. As soon as you come to us and you say, hey, I can't get them to respond back to me, what do I do? It is too late, guys. One of the fatalities has most likely already killed your deal. And most of the time we're just being lazy because we haven't gone through and leveraged the process and executed it. Or we're scared. We don't want to execute the process because we're worried that's going to get in the way of the relationship. But guys, we are trusted advisors. We are not their friends. We need to go in and provide a great service, a great sales experience. And we do that through the buyer's action plan and all the stuff that we're training you on. And by doing that, you will discover whether or not one of these fatalities is going to kill your deals. And if it is, you can disqualify them and you can have a clean pipeline. But when you qualify them up against this stuff, then you know you have a pipeline of highly qualified, highly probable deals that are going to close, and you can provide a much better forecast for yourself and your leader. So we're going to go through these real quick, guys, and just know as we go through the code today, the code is really more going to be about the internal game than the external game. It's going to be more of the peripherals now that we're going to be going through, but it's still going to apply to this stuff. It's still going to apply of how do we make sure we prevent these fatalities from needlessly killing deals that we should otherwise be closing. All right, first one, timing. This is the most prevalent. This is the most common fatality that is killing your deals. And this is a belief that it's not the right time to invest, or that other priorities / problems in their business or in their life or in their world take precedence. They're more important because we have not had the right conversation to pull out why this is a high priority, why this is something that they should absolutely prioritize and take action against. This is the biggest one, guys. If you would just focus on checkpoint one, you will see, and nothing else, you would see a dramatic improvement in your conversion.
Here's the
Next one,
question to go
please.
in this real quick. Here's the question I'm going to ask you guys. What is the oldest opportunity in your book of business? Right. So go to your opportunities in whatever system you're using. Look at the date that opportunity or lead was created. Okay. That's the day you found out about that problem or that goal that you created that. Now, how long has that been? I was just in a book of business this morning. It was from 2022. Let me ask the question. If the problem was really big enough that they needed to do something, would that problem still exist? If we found it in 2022, 2 years later, do you think that problem would still exist? There's a timing issue. Now, when we found it, right, and we can go through all of this different stuff, that's what I'm challenging you guys. Book of business, what's your oldest opportunity, right? Figure that out. Does the time make sense for what they're trying to do? If it's a $10 million re-roof that they're trying to do a 10-year budget on and you've been working on it for a year, maybe it makes sense. But if we're talking about a roof leak and it's been 6 months, is it really a problem big enough they're going to do something with? That's where timing comes in and kills your deal.
Our best reps, one other thing I'll say about that, guys, our best reps, and what you'll find is if you're doing this right from a timing perspective, your prospects are going to be hunting you down. Your prospects are going to feel the urgency to get this solved, and they are going to be pushing the process forward faster than even you can. If you feel like you're pushing the process along, then you haven't tapped into the urgency. And we promise you, the vast majority of the time, the urgency is there, or they would not be involved in the sales process. They'd be wasting their time on TikTok. They'd be wasting their time playing Madden 25 that's just about to come out. I mean, there's plenty of things to waste their time on, guys. They need to solve the problem. We just have to have the effective conversation with them to put them into a state of urgency, and they will run faster than we can. That'll shrink your time to close. It'll increase your conversion rate. It'll be great for every important metric that you have. All right, competition. Competition is perceived superiority of another option, speed, pricing, or solution options. And that's mainly coming from internal competition, their internal maintenance team, their existing roofing company, et cetera, et cetera. That's the main competition that you need to guard against on this, because product fit that we'll get to last is really the key way for you to distinguish yourself from the outside competition, if you will. When it's just apples to apples, a brand new roofing company that they've never worked with before. Next fatality, price. Prospects may feel your offering is too expensive or beyond their budget. Now, guys, one thing that we're going to see as you look through all of these definitions, you're going to see perceived. You're going to see the word feel. These are all unsubstantiated states of mind or conclusions that they are drawing because you have not helped them get clear that it is the right time, that they do need new and outside help, and that this problem is going to cost them a lot of money either way, and they don't need to worry about the price of the actual solution because the cost of the leak is going to exceed anything that they're going to have to budget for in terms of a repair. So this is the key. Get them out of their feelings and get them into facts. Fatality number 4, trust. Skepticism about the salesperson or the company's credibility. This is where you're dripping of commission dollars, where you've got that desperation, where you're saying, "Thank you so much for your time, Chad. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, Chad, to talk to me." What? I'm here to help you. My goal is to get you to tell me thank you by the end. I'm never going to say thank you to you, just like a doctor does not say thank you to their patients. We say it all the time, guys. Is this a date or is it a doctor visit? And too many salespeople treat this like a date. Do not court your prospects. Help them get healthier like a doctor does. And you'll have all the trust necessary. Run our solution roadmap, and that'll establish the company's credibility, and you'll be good to go. All right, next one is product fit. Your offering does not meet their perceived needs or solve their problems. And this is usually because our PDF proposals are too complex and they don't understand them. So they just focus on price because we're not speaking to them in a way that they understand based on their competency level of the problem that they're looking to solve. Again, we solve that with the solution roadmap. So these are the 5 fatalities. Get these things memorized, guys, because by getting these memorized, it will allow you to understand the 3 checkpoints. You've got to make sure that you're qualifying or disqualifying all of your leads by taking them through the process and figuring out, do they actually need to act? Do they actually need new or outside help? And do you actually have the best solution to help them solve their actual problems? And if you don't have this stuff memorized, you're not butting it up against during the sales process and the sales conversation. Therefore, you're not establishing it. And you are just hoping, guys. We don't want you to hope. You should have control over your conversion. And by having control over your conversion, you end up having control over your commissions. And we love for you to have control over your commission dollars.
Crazy how that happens, isn't it?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Check the boxes, guys. We give you all the tools, everything that you guys need in order to be able to check these boxes. It's so important. So today we're going to be going through the 7-figure sales code, right? So the 3 numbers that you guys need to understand to be able to get the most out of your day, the most out of your time, the most out of your process. Okay, those are the 3 things that we're going to go through. But I'm going to say something, and we're going to go into a little bit of story time with Chad, because I'm going to share something with you guys. And David said it earlier. I don't remember exactly what it was. I wanted to requote it, but missed it. Of we need to be able to have real conversations with our customers.
Oh.
Discover and disqualify is such a massive part of understanding and protecting our time. And we're going to go through a little bit of that today, but I'm going to bring up a book that I had read. There's many different versions of it, but it's called The 5 Love Languages. And it ultimately goes through the 5 different ways that people are acknowledged. There's 5 languages of appreciation, all kinds of different stuff. But what I'm going to tell you is a little part of the book that changed so much in my sales world that I hope that you guys can take a piece of it. And I'm going to butcher it, but ultimately, when 2 couples decide to be able to part ways, typically at that time is when they share everything that has frustrated them, made them upset, maybe the reason for the divorce, whatever the situation is, and they clear their conscience of everything they wanted to say when they were married or everything they wanted to say when they were together. And it does absolutely nothing. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't make them remarried. It doesn't solve any problems that they have. And when I was reading this, it was on Audible, so I was listening to it. This is no different than inside a relationship, that people mark stuff dead, right? And they get all of this different sides, or they don't mark it dead because they're afraid to have the conversation, afraid to be able to get the answer that, no, this isn't the right time. No, I awarded it to somebody else. No, we did it internally ourselves. Whatever the situation is, you're afraid to have that conversation that ultimately is only going to result inside 2 things. Number 1, you getting closure and writing that opportunity off. Or number 2, you being able to fix the problem that's maybe holding them back, the questions, the concerns, the lack of clarity that they maybe have on the scope of work. Everything that we just went through inside the 5 fatalities can be prevented. But you got to have the conversation, and you can't be afraid to be able to have the conversation, especially when you're still in it, right? Because once you neglect it, once you mark it dead, once you go from there, all of that stuff goes away. So we go through all these 3 checkpoints and we talk about, is the problem big enough to act? Well, let's have that conversation. Let's be real about this, because if it's not big enough to act, then maybe your client and you don't need to be able to put the time in, right? You both waste something. You both lose time. You both lose energy. You both lose efficiency. All of that stuff happens if we don't have the real conversation. Right? Do they actually need new and outside services? So many reps that I speak to are afraid to ask the question, are you working with a contractor right now? Have you tried something inside the past and it worked? Or maybe it didn't work, and that's why we're back here again. Have that conversation, because if you don't have the conversation, you're only hurting yourself. You're only hoping that the job is going to come to you to learn that you lost it because of price, or lost it because of whatever fatality we just went through is. You guys got to have the conversation. Don't wait until the deal is dead. Don't wait and keep your book of business so it's this big bloated number that's never real. It doesn't help anybody. have the real conversation. Have the conversation that needs to happen because that's when you provide the best value, helping the customer get clear. Do they have a problem that they actually need to spend money on? Yes or no? There's no maybes. And get crystal clear with your customer. Do they have a problem, right? Where they don't have their existing resources to be able to fix them? And if so, figure that out. Ask the questions, go through the check boxes, right? And whether you take this part from 5 love languages of appreciation, wherever it is, have the hard conversation because if you don't, it's only going to hurt yourself. It's only going to hurt your time. It's only going to hurt your sales process. And just as David said, it's going to hurt your guys' commission. Because every time that I dive into my book of business and I invest my time inside calling or talking to a client or even jumping on this meeting, I want something from it. And my want today is for you guys to be able to take one piece of this and put it into your business. And if that happens, then great. That's my fulfillment from all of this. Ask the questions, figure out if it's there, because if not, you're only hurting yourself. All right. So when we talk about these 3 things that you guys need to understand, the first one is your numbers. It is your numbers. It is your numbers. It is your numbers, because that will dictate what you do, how you do, when you do it. Okay. And when I say numbers, this isn't saying, oh, you only made 100 calls this week. You need to make 200 calls because Jeff made 200 calls. No, no, no. We're not talking about that. We're talking about being more efficient with your numbers, placing the phone calls that you actually need to make. So, David, can you take us through the magic trick, sir?
Yep. All right, guys. So we call this the sales magic trick, and this is where small improvements in our conversion rate at each one of these stages will be able to help give us a huge compound result. Okay. So for those of you guys in our programs, we are actively working on this every 2 weeks, but we want you guys to understand the method behind the madness on this stuff. It doesn't matter if we're missing goals. It only matters why we're missing goals. If we can learn why, then we can find the things that we need to improve. And when we improve them across multiple stages, we can get a huge increase. So we're going to start with 100 leads here. If we convert 100 of those leads into meetings, we have 40. If 60% of those convert into quotes, we have 24 quotes. And then if we convert 25% of those quotes into sales, we have 6 sales at an average of 7,000 per. Usually that's because there's one big sale in there and that drags up the average. So we get 42,000 a month. Okay. So when we go from 42,000 a month, go ahead and go to the next slide. Now we're looking at 100 leads. Actually, it looks like the slides got messed up here. So just stay on the left-hand side here, guys. 100 leads, 40% conversion rate, 50% conversion rate, 25%, and 7,000. If we get a 10% increase across each one of those stages, okay, we now go from 40 meetings up to 50 meetings. Okay, we go from
for 1 second.
Yeah.
Super, super, super important. We still have the same amount of activities up top, guys.
Yep.
Not making more calls.
Yep.
We're not doing anything different. We're getting more from what we have.
Yep.
All right.
So if we look at it and say, okay, what are the things that we need to be doing to get past the gatekeeper? What are some of the things that we can be doing to get past the gatekeeper and then ask the right initial questions of the actual decision maker to get them to want to have a meeting with us? Small things. We're just looking for a 10% increase, right? We go from 40% conversion to 50, we get 10 more meetings. So now we're at 50 meetings. On the quote side, if we can run those meetings more effectively, create more urgency, create more need for or more clarity around the need for outside help, now all of a sudden we go from 50 to 60% conversion. Now we're getting 30 meetings, or 30 quotes instead of 20. And then if we can increase our sales conversion from 25% to 35%, because we're actually using a solution presentation, we're being clear with our solution, we're actually talking to them about what matters instead of scuppers and seams that they don't care about. They just want peace of mind and the issue solved. Now all of a sudden we're at 11 sales. And if we can increase our average because we can better calculate the cost of the leak, the cost of the problem, and desensitize and price anchor, when we increase that from 7,000 to 8,000, now all of a sudden we're doing 88,000 a month. And over the course of 12 months, that puts us at just over $1 million, guys. And then look at the increase on that. Just a 10% increase across each one. Hit the next slide. a 250% improvement in overall sales. Okay. So this is the key, guys. If you're working with people like us, if you're working in an environment that we want to create where sales is a team sport, not an individual sport like it is in the vast majority of environments, it's absolutely ridiculous for you to think that we can't get you a 10% improvement in each one of these areas. I promise you we can. I promise you that we can. But you're trying to double your sales, like Chad said, by doubling your activity, by doubling your conversion rate, that doesn't work. But you can more than double your sales by getting the small incremental increases across each stage.
The part that I always see sales reps do is that when you have a number, right? Because this explanation is phenomenal if you guys are latching on to what we're saying. Because what I see sales reps do is say, okay, you did 500,000 this year. Well, we want you to do a million, round numbers, right? 750,000, doesn't matter what the number is. And they instantly think, oh, dude, I don't have time for that. I can't make that many calls because if I make 100 calls and do 420, well, if I need to do 840, that means I need to do 200 calls. I can't even make the 100 calls inside the week. How am I going to do 200 calls? Well, we're not asking you to do that, right? And this is where work smart, not work harder. What are those 100 calls that you guys are making? Who are they to? Are they to the right people, right? How can we increase your conversion ratio, not from 40 meetings to 80 meetings, right? Because ultimately, if you're just doubling all of your numbers inside here, that's not what we want to do. We want to be able to understand and make small tweaks to your sales process that allows you guys to be able to get more. Because if you guys can get more meetings, naturally you're going to get more quotes. You're naturally going to get more sales. You're naturally going to raise that cost because as you guys start selling more, you get more confident and that energy feeds. Trust me, that energy feeds. Especially as you start having a script, and script's probably the wrong word, a solution, a discovery page. You know the questions you're asking. And just like in any conversation, when you get the same answer the 20th time, it's not even new anymore. It's like I'm having roof leaks. My roofer can't take care of it. And you say, you know what? That's the third person I met with today that said that same thing.
Yep.
There's so much confidence that radiates from something like that compared to a first-time sales rep that's saying, oh, you have roof leaks? Okay, yeah, I can get up on the roof and I can fix that. So much confidence, so much productivity that you guys are going to get, efficiency that you're going to get from that. It gets really, really cool. So no, if you guys want to increase the amount of revenue that you're selling, it's not increasing the number of activities, right? Now that's going to have some effect onto it, but most likely there's some small tweaks that you can make inside your sales process that'll make a massive difference. So the second thing that I want to talk about, so number one, we talked about numbers. Number two is time. Okay. Time is something that you will never, ever, ever get back. Ever. You have to protect your time. And the first thing that I'll tell you is probably one of the easiest things is set up a calendar, okay, that allows you guys to be able to control what time you take meetings. And we already do this because we have the perfect sales week lined up, right? We have those documents, perfect sales week for inside sales, outside sales. I do my own inspections, outside sales. We got all of that set up, but there's a very specific time that you guys meet with customers and you guys prospect and times that you update your CRM and times that you do all the different things that you have to get accomplished inside the week. Because if you try doing them all at one time or you do them sporadically, you get nothing done. We've all been in the situation where we've done something all day long, we prospect all day long, and we get to the end of the day and it's like, what did I do today? And you don't even know what you accomplished because there was nothing structured. Protect your time, figure it out. Calendly is a great way to be able to control the way the meetings are being set up. If you guys have telemarketing, right? If you guys have different companies that are helping feed your company with leads or opportunities, I don't care if it's Facebook, control the days and times that they can schedule the meetings because you guys need to protect your time. I get on a sales rep, it's easy to be able to jump up and run out there and say, I got a meeting, I'm going to go do it at Monday at 8 a.m. because the customer said yes. It could hurt more than it can help. Protect your time. That's a huge, huge part of it, right? Give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you'll feed him for life. So when we talk about that, this has more to do with what is the most important things that you guys need to accomplish. Okay? Need to accomplish. There's a very, very big difference between I want to do this and I need to do this. And there's one question that I'm going to share with you guys that I ask myself this constantly. If I never did this, what is the impact? That's me. That's personal. That's deep. If I never did this task, because I have 1,000 things on my task manager that I want to do, but if I never did this, what is the impact? That's the first place that I would start, because there's probably a lot of stuff that you guys are doing, whether that be helping another employee, going to inspect a roof, going to do this. I don't know what it is. You guys know what it is. Is it helping you get closer to selling a job, to solving a problem, to getting a customer to their goal? And if that answer is no, I'm going to ask you guys to be able to challenge yourself. Now, there's going to be times where you guys have stuff that you need to get done, right? That's under your responsibility that you guys can't delegate out. And I'm going to tell you there is an entire world out there in the virtual assistant side. So a virtual assistant, ultimately, most people think it's like $5 an hour in the Philippines. No, you can do that. There's avenues there. I've been down that path. And I'll tell you the one thing from my side is that there is a lot of comprehension issues. Sometimes there's language barriers, all kinds of different things like that hinder productivity. Okay. From my side, my recommendation to you, I use Time, etc. I've used it for several years. They've been great. All of them are US based, and they do a fabulous job. But the coolest part about using your time like this is that they are absolutely professionals in what they do. No doubt about that. I have one VA that is specifically in Excel spreadsheets. I have one specifically inside design. I have one specifically that does press releases and write-ups for me. There are so many different things. So depending on what you guys have, I know not every job position is exactly the same. But again, it starts with asking yourself that question. If I don't do this, what is the impact? If the impact is little, okay, I'm going to challenge you guys. Do you actually need to do it? Okay. If you never did it and it has no impact to it, do you guys actually need to do it? The second part is that if you are doing something that is redundant, something that's a big project, and your time is better spent elsewhere, which means if you spend time selling, you guys are going to make more commissions. You guys are going to make more of that side. It could be worth looking into a virtual assistant. It could be worth looking into somebody to be able to help you. Even if the company doesn't supply it to you, it's not expensive, especially when you start thinking about what your time is worth on an hourly basis, right? Or even on a minute basis of what it'll take you. There could be a lot of value in looking into the virtual assistant world. The last thing I'll tell you is I use task managers. I know David's very much against it, so there's a lot of different styles. But I can tell you that I ultimately work, I think it's the 10-second rule is the book, that if you can't answer the question within 10 seconds, it needs to be scheduled. It needs to be put inside what I used to call project time. I still call it project time, right? And those are things that take deeper thought and allows you to be able to stay in the moment. If I'm out prospecting inside the field, I don't want to come back at the end of the day and have 3,000 emails to be able to go through. There's a lot of different things. Some you pay for, some you don't. The iPhone has, I think it's TAS on it. Microsoft has it. Todoist is one that I use. There's a lot of different ways to be able to help. But I'll say the number one thing when this started, when I started using a task manager, this allowed me to get everything out of my head. And that's the one thing that still sticks to me. My brain is not here to be able to help me remember things. It's here to be able to keep me alive. If I have a thought inside my head, I put it into this task manager, and you guys might use this in a piece of paper or something else. Focus on what you need to be there for. That's a huge, huge part of success is being able to understand why you're there. The last part in this is something that David has personally helped me with just inside the last quarter, which is ultimately a decision graph, right? Isn't urgent, right? So first off, let's go important, less important. So you see the task, you see what it is it important? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. Is it urgent? Is it something that needs to happen right now, right? Got a tech on site. Tech needs an upsell right now. To me, that would be important and urgent, especially if that's within your job role. Now, is it important and it's less urgent, which means it doesn't have a time frame of it needs to be done today? Well, you schedule it. Schedule it out, right? The perfect sales week has time built in there for you guys to be able to take care of those projects, whether they be CRM projects, whether they be something else connected to it. Maybe you got to update notes inside Service Channel or some type of other third-party system. Schedule time for it. Make sure you got time within your schedule for that. Now, the less important stuff, this is where we get into kind of the virtual assistant side, It's less important, right? So it's not super important, but it is urgent. It's something that you're responsible for. Well, then you got to be able to know, do you have someone to delegate to? Now, internally, if you do, that's great. It might be a conversation that you need to have with your team. Maybe an office manager, a service coordinator, or something like that can help you truly if you're upside down. But you need to be able to have those conversations, just like we're having inside the other one. If you don't ask the question, guys are never going to know. Okay. And if it's less important and it's not urgent, that's where I'm challenging you guys. If you never did this task, what would the impact be? And if that's the case, maybe we need to delete it. Maybe we need to get rid of it. And if that's the case, if you delete it and there's absolutely no repercussion, that can be a massive, massive part of your time.
Can I say
So,
one thing on that real quick, guys? So if you go back to that, and guys, the main thing that we lean into on this is when we're looking at the important and less important, it's not that things aren't important. It's are they as important as you generating new sales and revenue for the business? There's a meeting that somebody in the company wants you to be a part of. It's not that that meeting is not important. The question is that meeting as important? Right? Is it as important as you generating revenue for the business? If it's less important and the meeting is not urgent, then those are the things that you say no to. You have to get good at saying no to things. You have to, because you have to make sure that you're protecting your time so you can actually put it towards revenue generating activities. In terms of the stuff to schedule, this is the stuff that we see from in that top right hand quadrant is it's important, but it's less urgent, but you end up doing it instead of your activity. You had an hour or two blocked off to go through and make phone calls, and then an email comes through and you stop doing what you were doing. You stop making dials, you stop sending out emails, and you go respond to that thing or you go do that task that was important, but it wasn't urgent. Instead of just putting time on your calendar and getting back to work and making sure that you're protecting your activity time. That activity time has a cascade effect, and you've got to protect it. If you don't hit your activity targets based on the numbers and what your proven conversion rate is, or your historical conversion rate is, you're putting yourself behind the eight ball. So really leverage this. This is called the Eisenhower matrix. Really leverage this to help you understand where you should be placing your time and where you shouldn't be placing your time. And how do you make sure that you're as efficient as you possibly can be, which that efficiency is going to automatically equate to results.
and this is the live part. Raise of hands if you feel David was watching you this morning when you were supposed to be making dials and you got caught up inside your email.
Right.
He was there. He knows I didn't make my calls today. I'm sorry. I got so many emails and projects. I had to get them done. We live there, guys. It's a battle. It's a battle. It's a battle. But that's why we're sharing this stuff. That's why we're sharing best practices, because this is what's going to allow you to be able to make those dials, to be able to make those meetings and calls and get the numbers that you guys need in order to make the stuff happen. So this is just some things that I'm sharing based upon best practices. One, it's about protecting your time. You're never going to get more of it. And if you do, you're borrowing it from something else. That's the hardest part. You're borrowing it from the night with the kids. You're borrowing it at night with your wife, or you're working the weekends, or whatever it is that's being inside there. From my side to you, it sucks at some points. If you guys want to work, that's awesome. I'm envious, right? And I'm still with you guys many hours and days and all that stuff, but we want it to be optional. So once a week, I clear out unwanted emails. That means I go in, I get a massive amount of emails when I wake up. My inbox has, at one point, had like 70, 80 emails where it was just like red, 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 red. Take the time. Just hit unsubscribe. If you're a part of Gmail or something like that, there are some cool features where you guys can unsubscribe easily to a mass amount of emails as your email gets, caught up with, whatever it might be. Right. So it's 100 emails, no more by 10 a.m. I run, my Todoist runs my day. It still does for the most part. Everything comes out of my head. So I have different projects for each client that I work with. And if I have something that, let's just say, is homework or wherever it is, it's going to be in Todoist. So when I go and meet with David, I pull up Todoist and it tells me every single task that he and I are working on. So I use that to be able to really control my day and make sure that if I'm meeting with Tom, in 20 minutes, I know what that schedule is. It's right there. And I don't have to worry about forgetting something. Again, my brain keeps me alive, doesn't help me remember it. Use a 5 or 10 second rule. If I can't answer it within 5 seconds, I'm delegating it, I'm pushing it, I'm scheduling it. If I can answer it quickly, yes, no, or just instantly know the answer, cool, I respond. I never go to bed with an email. I think this is two different parts of life. My wife goes to bed, I think, with like 15,766 emails, and she sleeps fine. I don't know how. Truly don't know how. I'm zero. So that really goes back to that 5 second rule. I do have my phone at night. I am running through that. But ultimately, I answer it, I move it over to Doist so it can be scheduled for the next day. And then each night I choose non-scheduled priorities for the next day. So if I have different things that I want to accomplish or my day is not full, I've scheduled those. Just as we went through that whole Eisenhower thing, I'm now at the point where if I have a project, I know it's going to take me 20 or 30 minutes, I put it on my calendar. And that's now time blocked on my calendar. And that's been working great for me. Constantly making tweaks to all of this, guys. But I mean, it really, really comes down to one thing, and that's holding yourself accountable. You have to be accountable to you, especially when it comes to time. Knowing your numbers is beautiful, but if you can't hold yourself accountable to understanding how to protect your time, you're forever going to have that fatality personally that you're going to miss your numbers because you don't have the time to accomplish it. And there's something else that's called golden hours, guys. That is when your client is available. Nobody cares if you send emails at 9 o'clock at night because your client's not in the office at 9 o'clock at night. Now, if that's a business strategy you have, game on. I hope it works. But at the end of the day, you guys have a certain amount of time that your client is in the office, that your client is conducting business, and that you have the time to pick the phone up and call that client. Don't waste that time doing something you shouldn't. That's what I got. David, you want to take us home on the third key, sir? The third
Yeah,
secret?
absolutely. Yep. All right, guys. So the third secret is process. Okay. If you know your numbers, right? You understand what your conversion or your conversation to meeting ratio is. You understand what your meeting to quote ratio is, and you understand what your quote to sale ratio is. It's good. You've got a good understanding of where you're sitting. If you've got control over your time, then you're making sure that you're allowing yourself enough time to be able to run enough activities at the top, but also making sure that you have enough time to run process. There are times, guys, where you don't actually run good discovery and diagnosis or a good presentation because you're getting pinched on time, because you don't have enough time, because you're not able to control the amount of time that you have, or you didn't get enough time with the prospect, whatever that may be. So that's why we've given you process here. The buyer's action plan is the main process that we're going through every single Tuesday in this Roof Wars series. Go to the next one. But you've got to be able to follow it. You have to be able to understand what is the key process on how you actually figure out what the checkpoints are. If you don't cross these checkpoints, guys, then your proposals are dead on arrival. Just think about that. That's embarrassing when we're literally, and we do it too sometimes. Like, again, we're not perfect, guys, but there are times where we realize, holy crap, we don't have a checkpoint crossed. Now we run halftime all the time, so we always make sure that we're aware of that before we deliver the proposal, and we get back in there and we get that figured out before we deliver it. But think about how much time we're wasting, guys, on deals that we're never going to take action or deals that we're never going to use outside help. It's so defeating. But you don't have to do that because we've given you guys the process. And not only have we given you guys the process, we put it into technology. We spent a lot of money putting it into technology for you guys, where your little thumb just has to press a button. That's it. Just boop. There's the answer. How do we know what the answers are? Because we've been running this process for so long, we already know what the prospects are going to say. There's 100 different answers. There's 4 to 5 on every single question. Click the answer. It'll pop in there for you. You won't forget a question. And Chad said it beautifully, guys. Most of the time we're screwing up because we forget to ask questions. That's so dumb. Why do we do that? We don't have to do that. We have the resources at our fingertips. Okay. We don't have to make those stupid mistakes and allow our conversion rate and our ability to help other people go down. So first checkpoint is obviously, do they need to act? We want to understand their objective, who the decision makers are, what their current reality is, why they failed, and then what is the priority and urgency on this thing. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. If they do not need to act, don't keep asking them questions. Don't move on to the next section. Figure it out right then and there. And guys, I promise you, that's the magic of the seven-figure sales reps that the seven-figure sales reps in our program have figured out. When they push back against their prospects and say, well, wait, I don't understand. Why are you doing anything about this? This doesn't seem like it's that big of a problem, because they're not desperate, because they're not hoping that the person is just blindly going to spend money. When they push back on them, that is what causes that prospect to say, well, here's what's really going on. I'm not actually crazy. I'm not actually just talking to you for no reason because I'm bored and I don't have any friends. Here's what's actually going on. Don't be afraid, guys. Get in there and do it. Okay. Now, once we've established if they need to act, then we can move on to the next checkpoint, which is, do they need new or outside help? And we do that by helping them understand the bigger problem that they're actually experiencing, which our company is very, very good at solving. It's our specialty. They're very, very clear on what the expected outcomes are. If they do not solve this, they understand the basic timeline and budget that they'll need to be able to do this up against the cost of the problem from the expected outcomes. And then they're clear on their gap in their ability, why they haven't been able to solve this up until now, and why they're actually talking to you. Because if they could have solved it, they would have solved it, but they didn't solve it. From there, we've got the second checkpoint solved if you passed. But if you don't pass this checkpoint, don't continue on. Stick in there, guys. Figure it out. And guys, even if it's an awkward conversation, we would rather you stick in and have an awkward conversation with 3 or 4 prospects so it helps you get better with the next 30 to 40 prospects than you continuing to bail out of the system and just not figure out how to get through these questions. If you need role playing, we're here for you. We're going to be launching a Thursday call. You guys will get an invite for it, those of you that are in our program, so that we can go through and do role playing there as well. Then the last checkpoint is, do we have the best solution? Well, to be able to do that, they need to understand we have a proven history of actually solving their problems. That's what people care about. That's why we care about reviews. That's why we care about online testimonials, because it clearly shows whether or not there's a history of people with our problems getting to the outcome that we want. If we do have a proven history, what's a clear solution that we're giving them that's not confusing the hell out of them? And then what are our delivery and timelines? How do we put them in the future and seeing what the relationship with us is going to be like so they can see how different it's going to be? Again, there's a low bar in the commercial roofing industry, and we can show them we're that much better. Doing that will allow them to see that we have the best solution. And guys, we'll tell you over and over again, you go in there and telling them that you've been in business for 30 years, who cares? So Chad, just so you know, we over the last 30 years, we've been able to avoid bankruptcy and any major deaths to the ownership. That's all you're saying, guys. What the hell does that mean? If you've been in business for 30 years, why have you been in business for 30 years? Why do people keep coming back to you? What are those proven results? And these are the things that we continue to teach you over and over again, but you got to execute the process all the way down to the point where you actually drive them to a decision. All 3 checkpoints are crossed, and you use the confirmation checklist or the confirmation close and the alignment checklist in the app to go through and ask them the final 3 questions to drive them to a yes or no. This is your Jedi mind trick to be able to drive them to a decision where you can clearly see where you either got misaligned and why they're not closing, or if they're a yes and they have next steps, what those next steps are and what you have to do, what they have to do, and when you're going to get the next meeting scheduled so you continue to progress the deal forward. All 3 of these guys end up being the code. You end up knowing your numbers, you end up having control over your time, and you end up being able to implement your process. And this unlocks. Do you know what's on the other side of that? That cool little combination lock, guys? You know what's on the other side of that? It's a pot full of gold. It's many, many monies for all of you guys. And financial freedom for your families is on the other side. You just got to start clicking them in and actually do the stuff. And when you do, you guys are going to see success that you've never seen before.
This is a fun one.
Yeah.
I love this. I love this. I love this, guys. So tying this together, much like David said, the best sales reps, they understand first off the numbers. They know what they have to do in order to be able to hit their goal and exceed their goal. Super cool part is once you just get this clarity of what you have to do to be able to hit those numbers, it becomes so much easier to be able to hit those numbers rather than just doing everything you can. And just, I made as many phone calls as I can. I ran as many meetings as people would say yes to me, but I just didn't hit my goal this week. That's not what it's about. It's about knowing truly what those numbers are. Second one is time. Protect your time, guys. It's all you got, and you'll never get more of it. So if you're not protecting your time and doing the things that truly matter in your business, in your sales process, that's going to drive you closer to a sale, then you guys are only hurting yourself. Then finally, use the process that works, right? There's no need to experiment when you have a process that works. You can get better, you can evolve. That happens every single day, and that's what we're helping you guys do. But you have to understand specifically, what questions do you ask to get a yes or no? Is the problem big enough to act? And if the problem isn't big enough to act, then you should get out of there because you're wasting your time. Spend time with people who have problems big enough to act, who have issues with their vendors or issues repairing the work themselves, that they know they have to make a different choice, and that are looking for someone who can uniquely solve their problem. Their problem is unique, it's theirs. Okay. You bring confidence and clarity with them by asking the right questions and helping them get to a decision. Helping them get to a decision, guys. We're not jamming anything down their throat. We're not making them do anything. They need clarity. They need confidence. And that's what we're here to do. This has been Roof Wars, guys. Truly, truly appreciate it. And we are ending on 1 second time. There you guys go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. David, anything to end, sir?
Nope. Have a great week, guys.
Kill it, guys.